This just in from several hours ago of the AP News Service. Trump approves nuclear agreement that may allow Saudi Arabia to enrich uranium, two AP sources say. I'll read a little bit down below and then preview the video clip. So here we go. President Trump has approved an agreement with Saudi Arabia that could potentially provide the kingdom with uranium enrichment capability for its civilian nuclear program, according to two people familiar with the matter. Yes, but I'm sure that's only going to lead to one certain thing down the road, that they will enrich the uranium to the point where they'll have the ability to synthesize plutonium and then therefore in turn make nuclear warheads of plutonium. This agreement is expected to be announced publicly as early as Wednesday. Going further, the deal is expected to last 30 years and is also expected to involve U.S. firms in developing the program. The deal could allow for the building of a uranium enrichment facility in Saudi Arabia, according to a joint U.S.-Saudi study. The deal, which is expected to be submitted to Congress for review, could face headwinds amongst lawmakers who fear that helping the Saudis fulfill their long-standing desire to enrich their own uranium would open new rounds of nuclear proliferation and competition. As Saudi Arabia is a member state of the International Atomic Energy Agency, a Vienna-based agency which promotes peaceful nuclear work but also inspects nations to ensure they don't have clandestine atomic weapons programs, is not expected to include the IAEA's additional protocol, which would allow for more monitoring, inspections, and verification, according to one of the people. And continuing, I will play the clip here.
The United States may have reached a deal with Saudi Arabia that could allow the kingdom to enrich uranium. Now, this is coming after U.S. officials told the Associated Press that this deal is expected to be announced today. We don't have very many details, but Saudi Arabia for years has been trying to get the Americans to agree to help them expand their nuclear program. That's raised some concerns because the Saudis have said that they wanted to enrich uranium. Now, this is exactly how you would potentially make a nuclear weapon, by enriching uranium up to weapons-grade levels and then building a bomb. Now, Saudi Arabia is insisting that its plans are peaceful for its nuclear program, but we have heard from their assertive Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman that the kingdom would be willing to seek a nuclear weapon should Iran choose to build a bomb. Now, right now, Iran is not building a bomb as far as U.S. intelligence agencies and the International Atomic Energy Agency believe, but it does have a stockpile of highly enriched uranium that could be further enriched and could allow Iran to rush for a bomb should it choose to do so, especially as it's now engaged in these back-and-forth attacks against America over control of the Strait of Hormuz. Now, Saudi Arabia has uranium deposits. It has this long-term interest. It wants to make possibly nuclear power plants as well. But non-proliferation experts warn that if Saudi Arabia is allowed to enrich, that could open the door to yet another Middle East nation that could be at risk of racing for the bomb.
Does Saudi Arabia need nuclear weapons to counter Iran?
Saudi Arabia does not want to acquire any nuclear bomb. But without a doubt, if Iran developed a nuclear bomb, we will follow suit as soon as possible.
MBS has openly said Saudi Arabia will get a nuclear weapon if Iran ever does. And this week, the U.S. quietly moved that closer to reality. Washington finalized a nuclear deal letting Saudi Arabia enrich uranium on its own soil. Iran gets bombed for enrichment. Saudi Arabia gets it handed over. And it landed in the middle of another crisis. The Houthis just declared a full blockade on Saudi Arabia, and ships are already rerouting away from Bab el-Mandeb. Before this war, only 4 million barrels a day moved through that strait. Since Hormuz shut down, Saudi Arabia pushed that to over 7 million barrels a day. It became their entire lifeline. Combined with Hormuz, that's now 25% of the world's oil and gas supply at risk. Here's why the region should be worried. Saudi already has a defense pact with Pakistan, the only Muslim nuclear power, whose officials said that arsenal could be made available if needed. Now experts are asking, if Saudi gets this deal, what stops the UAE, Turkey, or Egypt from demanding the same? One war, two choke points, a nuclear arms race quietly being lit in the background.
السلام عليكم سعودي عرب هغه امباور کا هغه طاقت ورک دومره اسلحه ول ورک چې دا هغه په تر باندې د ایران وي په دې کې ضرورت د اټم بم مرالو کنه نو سعودي عرب له داسې په طریقه باندې اجازه ورک چې د اټم بم جوړ کی او ایران د سعودي عرب په تر باندې راسم لو مسلمان په مسلمان په خپل منځ کې واچو د دې په تر باندې د دې مسلې حل راوتل شي داسې نشي راوته دلته کې سوال ستاسو په ذهن کې دام پیدا کیږي او پیدا کېدل پکار دي چې یاره د سعودي عرب په تر باندې چې هغه اسلحه ورکړي او غواړي چې هغه اټم بم ډیولپ کړي او بیا په ایران وایي نو اټم بم په دغه مشرق وسطا کې الریډي د اسرائیل سره شته دا هغه د اټم بم په تر باندې ایران ولې نه قلاره چې سعودي عرب په دې طریقه باندې امپاور کوي دغه دغه خبره راځي چې د دوی په ذهن کې دا تاویږي چې طریقه دا ده چې ایران یو مسلمان ملک دی په بل مسلمان ملک باندې اوخه موږ د بلارې صفا کوي خبره ته په غور باندې کې دا وګ دا ډیولپمنٹ د دې ټیم کې انټرنیشنل میډیا کور کوي سی ان ان په پوره یو رپورت جاری کړی دی چې نیوکلیئر ډیل that would permit uranium enrichment by Saudi Arabia in limbo awaiting Trump admin sign off Donald Trump سعودي عرب له اجازه ورکړي چې ته په خپل خاور باندې یورانیم انریچمنت کول شي یورانیم انریچمنت څه شي دا اکسیز د کم په ترو باندې چې اټم بم طرف خپل لارې صفا کول شي اټم بم جوړول شي ته وګورئ کنه وال سټریټ جرنل دا راپور کوي ټرمپ اپرووز لینډمارک نیوکلیئر ډیل ټرمپ اپروو کو د چا سره د سعودي عرب سره چې دا سعودي عرب د لپاره ګټه ده
While the United States is carrying out airstrikes over Iran's nuclear program, it has also approved a civil nuclear program for Saudi Arabia. Yes, the United States and Saudi Arabia have reached a civil nuclear agreement. Under the deal, Saudi Arabia will be allowed to build nuclear power plants and enrich uranium inside the country. This is significant because the United States normally does not allow its allies to enrich uranium on their own soil. However, this agreement is only for a civilian nuclear program that produces electricity. For this purpose, uranium only needs to be enriched to 3 to 5%, whereas a nuclear bomb requires uranium enriched to around 90%. Meanwhile, Iran has already enriched approximately 440 kilograms of uranium to 60%.
President Trump, politics often teaches a simple lesson. There is one law written on paper and another written by power. We are told Iran must never enrich uranium, yet reports now suggest Saudi Arabia may receive approval to enrich uranium under a new civilian nuclear agreement. An interesting distinction, is it not? The explanation offered is always the same. One nation is an ally, another is a threat. But uranium does not recognize alliances. Centrifuges do not salute flags. The technology remains identical. Iran has enriched uranium to around 60%, a level that many governments argue brings it much closer to weapons capability than civilian energy requires. Weapons-grade uranium is generally considered around 90%. These concerns are real. But if enrichment itself is presented as unacceptable, why permit it elsewhere? History reminds us that great powers rarely measure everyone with the same ruler. They measure according to interest. So the question is no longer about uranium. It is about principles. Are international rules truly universal? Or do they change with the passport of the nation holding the centrifuge? As the old saying goes, when standards have two faces, trust soon has none.
The United States, Israel, and Saudi Arabia are all planning to launch a nuclear attack against Iran. Now, the reason why is pretty simple. President Trump announced that Saudi Arabia will only get a nuclear program if it recognizes Israel. And there's almost a 100% chance of this happening because Iran is Saudi Arabia's biggest enemy. So if you think this war between the US and Iran is going to end anytime soon, you are delusional. So before World War III starts, make sure to
say your prayers and hope for the best, because we all know watching the Muslim world be utterly annihilated is one of their certain dreams and goals. We all know this. And once they have all of the Muslim world out of the way, those Jews are going to come after us Gentiles, or us Goyim as they call us.
Right now, American bombers are flying missions to destroy Iran's nuclear program. This week, the same government signed a deal to help Saudi Arabia build one. The US and Saudi Arabia signed a civilian nuclear agreement today, allowing American companies to help build a nuclear program on Saudi soil, with the potential for Saudi Arabia to enrich its own uranium fuel. This isn't a rumor or a future promise. It's signed. Reports suggest the deal could run for 30 years and pave the way for an actual enrichment facility on Saudi soil, following a joint US-Saudi feasibility study. Here's the part that should worry you. Saudi Arabia is a member of the IAEA, the world's nuclear watchdog, but this deal reportedly does not include the IAEA's additional protocol, the gold standard of inspections that lets international monitors actually verify a country isn't diverting fuel toward a weapon. Without it, Riyadh gets enrichment capability with only limited oversight. Why does enrichment matter so much? Because uranium enrichment is dual-use technology. The same centrifuges that produce low-enriched fuel for a power plant can, with time and reconfiguration, push toward weapons-grade material. That choice makes sense once you remember what Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman has said. On the record, if Iran builds a nuclear weapon, Saudi Arabia will build one too.
Well, all right, folks. I hope this was a pretty educational viewpoint on what a nuclear-armed Saudi Arabia could do if they get the chance to build a nuclear arsenal to wage war against Iran or any other country that they may in the future have a problem with. But I think Israel, with plans of trying to destroy the Muslim world, I think they would be their next target. So I hope you enjoyed this presentation, and perhaps see you in the next one. Also, like, subscribe, and share, and comment.